On behalf of the Minnesota Cuba Committee, I'd like to welcome you. I'm August Nims. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to tonight's program, which will provide an update and the latest information about the situation of the Cuban Five, along with basic information for people who may not be familiar with the case. And again, we want to thank Justice Smith for co-hosting the exhibit of Gerardo Hernandez. And there you are. There's Jessica. And Jessica has really been great to work with and to get to know her and to have this exhibit of Gerardo's drawings and political cartoons. Gerardo is the person who was given the severest sentence by the U.S. courts, 2 life sentences and 15 years. And he is particularly important in the history of the Cuban Five and their activities. And we have with us tonight someone who has spent a good deal of time reading about the case, and not only reading but also providing solidarity to the Cuban Five, and that's Fred Carson. And so without further ado, that's Fred too.
Okay. A little more comfortable standing up. Well, the Minnesota Cuba Committee is, for the last couple of years, has done a couple of meetings and exhibits, this being the most recent one. And we take a lot of pride in what we do, and are glad that we can have a meeting like this tonight, get out the truth about the Cuban Five. Just 1 year ago, exactly 1 year ago, we had an art exhibit of Antonio Guerrero, who's one of the Cuban Five. His paintings and drawings were on display at the Homewood Studio in North Minneapolis. It was very successful. One of the things we try to do is reach people who don't know anything about the Cuban Five. So I just want to say a couple of basic things about them, and about the case, and why they were framed, and why they should be out of jail. Gerardo Hernandez, whose political cartoons you see tonight, is 46 years old. He's been in prison along with the others since September 12, 1998. So they're in their 14th year in prison. He served time in California in the desert there, in Victorville. Ramón Labañino has been in 3 separate prisons now. He's in Georgia. He's 48. Keep in mind, they've been in jail for 14 years. They were pretty young when they were framed up, arrested, convicted, and so forth. Ramón Labañino is now in Georgia, but he spent time in Texas and Kentucky. Antonio Guerrero has been in prison in Colorado. Fernando has been in prison. He's been in a couple of prisons as well, Wisconsin and now in Terre Haute, Indiana. And René González was released from prison a little less than a month ago. He served 13 years and 26 days, his full sentence in Florida. He had served earlier in South Carolina. This is known in some circles as an espionage case, but it's a very unusual espionage case that doesn't involve any classified information. Nothing was gathered, nothing was transmitted. There was no classified documents, not one. frame up. The charges against them, the most serious ones, were conspiracy to commit espionage, and later, 7 months after they were arrested, they added the charge, conspiracy to commit murder. This was against Gerardo Hernandez, who was here. I'm going to go through a lot of things. You know, we could talk on each thing I've raised right now. It'd take many minutes. But raise your questions. All 5 of them are products of the Cuban Revolution. They're heroes in Cuba. They're real working class fighters, and they do political work while they're in prison in this country. 3 of them served in the 70s and 80s in Angola on international missions. What was their crime? What did they do? They had assignments from the Cuban government. They went to Miami. Miami, in southern Florida, has been a place where violent counter-revolutionary Cuban-American groups have operated for more than 50 years. They have a 50-year record of deadly attacks against the Cuban people. They were arrested in 1998. You have to go back to what was going on in Cuba, which I'm not going to go into tonight, but there was a whole series of violent attacks on the Cuban people, particularly the hotels in Havana, including one tourist getting killed in Italy. It was in that environment. These Cuban-American groups have a lot of different names. One of them was Brothers to the Rescue. Operated with Washington's complicity. Several of the leaders of these groups were trained by the CIA and the U.S. government. They go way back to the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961. Some of them got involved later in counter-revolutionary activity in Nicaragua after the Nicaraguan Revolution. And so forth. These sentences they got were very harsh. When the sentences came down after a 7-month trial, it got very little publicity. We would think a case that would involve espionage and all these things would get coverage, but it didn't. 3 of the 5 were given life sentences with no possibility ever of parole. And Gerardo, like I explained, or August mentioned, a double sentence plus 15 years. Another side to this story that could also take an hour is the refusal of the U.S. government to allow the wives of Gerardo Hernandez and René González to see their wives. Adriana Pérez, his wife, Gerardo, and Olga Salanueva's married to René. So in other words, Gerardo has not seen his wife in 13 years, and René has not seen his in 11. After about 7 years,